Welcome back to Literate Lens. I'm so glad you're here today because we're about to dive into a book that honestly changed my perspective on life. If you're new here, we break down powerful books in a way that actually makes sense and helps you apply these lessons to your real life. So if you love learning and growing, hit that subscribe button right now because trust me, you don't want to miss what we have coming up. Today, we're talking about The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This sounds like another boring self-help book, right? But stick with me, because this book is different. It's not about quick fixes or life hacks. It's about fundamentally changing how you see yourself and the world around you. So, let me tell you a story. Imagine you're on a subway, and there's this guy sitting across from you with his kids. And these kids, they're going absolutely wild. They're running around, yelling, bothering other passengers. And this father, he's just sitting there doing nothing about it. You can feel your frustration building. How can he be so irresponsible? Finally, you can't take it anymore and you lean over and say, "Excuse me, but could you please control your children? They're disturbing everyone." The man looks up at you and his eyes are distant, like he's not really there. He says softly, "Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. We just came from the hospital. Their mother died an hour ago. I don't know what to think, and I guess they don't know how to handle it either." In that instant, everything changes. Your frustration vanishes. Suddenly, you see the situation completely differently. Your heart breaks for this man and his children. You want to help. You ask what you can do. This is what Covey calls a paradigm shift. And this is where our journey begins. See, most of us go through life reacting to things based on how we see the world. We think our way of seeing things is the way things actually are. But what if I told you that how you see the problem is the problem? Think about that for a second. We spend so much time trying to change our circumstances, trying to change other people, when really we need to start by changing ourselves, by changing how we see things. Covey talks about this concept called the personality ethic versus the character ethic. For the last few decades, we've been obsessed with the personality ethic. Quick fixes, positive thinking, communication techniques, trying to influence people with tricks. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a broken bone. But the character ethic? That's about building your foundation from the inside out. It's about integrity, humility, courage, justice. It's about who you really are when no one's watching. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Covey introduces us to 7 habits, but these aren't just random tips. They follow a path. The first 3 habits are about achieving what he calls private victory. This is about mastering yourself, becoming independent. Then the next 3 habits are about public victory, about working effectively with others, becoming interdependent. And the 7th habit? That's about renewal, making sure you don't burn out on this journey. Let me paint a picture for you. Think about your life right now. Be honest with yourself. How much of your day is spent reacting to things? Your phone buzzes, you immediately check it. Someone criticizes you, you defend yourself. Your plans get disrupted, you get stressed. You're living reactively, like a pinball being bounced around by whatever comes your way. Most of us live like this, and we don't even realize it. This is where the first habit comes in. Be proactive. And I'm not just talking about taking initiative, although that's part of it. Covey is talking about something deeper. Between what happens to you and how you respond, there's a space. And in that space lies your freedom to choose your response. Think about that. You always have a choice. Always. Let me share something personal. There was a time when I used to blame everything on my circumstances. Bad grade? The teacher doesn't like me. Didn't get that opportunity? The system is rigged. Failed at something? I didn't have the right resources. I was living in what Covey calls the circle of concern, constantly worrying about things I couldn't control. The weather, the economy, other people's opinions, the past. And you know what? It was exhausting and it got me nowhere. But when you shift to the circle of influence, focusing on what you can control, everything changes. You can't control how people treat you, but you can control how you respond. You can't control all your circumstances, but you can control your attitude. You can't control the past, but you can control what you do right now in this moment. Proactive people focus their energy on their circle of influence. They work on things they can do something about. And here's the beautiful part. The more you focus on your circle of influence, the bigger it gets. You become more capable, more confident, more effective. Reactive people do the opposite. They focus on their circle of concern, complaining about things they can't change, and their circle of influence actually shrinks. The language you use reveals whether you're proactive or reactive. Reactive people say things like, "There's nothing I can do. That's just the way I am. They make me so mad. I have to do this." Proactive people say, "Let's look at our alternatives. I can choose a different approach. I control my own feelings. I will choose an appropriate response."
Now, here's something powerful. Being proactive also means taking responsibility for your life. The word responsibility, think about it. Response-ability. It's your ability to choose your response. Your life is a product of your decisions, not your conditions. If you don't like your current situation, you have the power to change it. Maybe not overnight, maybe not easily, but you have that power. But being proactive isn't enough if you're running in the wrong direction, right? This brings us to the second habit. Begin with the end in mind. This one honestly gave me chills when I first understood it. Covey asks you to do something uncomfortable. Imagine you're at a funeral. You walk into the room, you see the flowers, you hear the soft music, you see the faces of family and friends, and as you walk closer to the casket, you suddenly realize this funeral is yours. This is your funeral 3 years from now. And 4 people are going to speak about you. 1 from your family, 1 of your friends, 1 from your work or school, and 1 from your community or organization. Now, what would you want them to say about you? What kind of person do you want them to remember? What achievements? What contributions? What difference did you make in their lives? Take a moment and really think about this, because most of us are so busy climbing the ladder of success that we never stop to ask if the ladder is leaning against the right wall. This habit is about defining your mission, your values, your goals. It's about leadership. And Covey makes this brilliant distinction. Management is doing things right, but leadership is doing the right things. You can be incredibly efficient at doing something that shouldn't be done at all. You can spend your whole life achieving goals that don't really matter to you, trying to impress people you don't even like, pursuing success that leaves you feeling empty. So Covey encourages you to write a personal mission statement. Now, I know that sounds corporate and boring, but hear me out. This isn't about business jargon. This is about defining who you want to be and what you want to do with your life. It's your constitution, your standard for measuring everything else. When I wrote mine, I had to really dig deep. What matters most to me? What are my core values? What do I want to be known for? And let me tell you, having that clarity changes everything. When opportunities come up, you can ask, does this align with my mission? When decisions need to be made, you have a framework. When life gets chaotic, you have an anchor. Think about all the roles you play in your life. Maybe you're a student, a friend, a son or daughter, a team member, a creator. What kind of student do you want to be? What kind of friend? Write it down. Be specific. Because here's the thing. All things are created twice. First in your mind, then in reality. The carpenter imagines the house before building it. The architect draws the plans before construction begins. You need to create a mental creation before you can have a physical creation. And if you don't do this consciously, if you don't take charge of that first creation, other people and circumstances will shape it for you. You'll end up living someone else's script, fulfilling someone else's expectations, chasing someone else's version of success. Okay, so now you're proactive, you know where you want to go, but knowledge isn't enough. This is where the third habit comes in. Put first things first. This is about execution, discipline, making it happen. Let me ask you something. How do you spend your time? If someone followed you around for a week and documented everything you did, what would they find? Would your actions align with what you say is important to you? For most people, the answer is honestly no. We say our health is important, but we don't exercise. We say our relationships matter, but we don't invest time in them. We say our dreams are important, but we spend hours scrolling through social media. Covey introduces this game-changing concept called the time management matrix. He divides all activities into 4 quadrants. Quadrant 1 is urgent and important, crises, pressing problems, deadline-driven projects. Quadrant 2 is not urgent but important, prevention, planning, relationship building, learning, exercise. Quadrant 3 is urgent but not important, interruptions, some calls and emails, other people's minor issues. And Quadrant 4 is not urgent and not important, time wasters, busy work, mindless scrolling. Most people live in Quadrant 1 and Quadrant 3, constantly reacting to urgent things. And when they're burned out from all that urgency, they escape to Quadrant 4 to recover. Sound familiar? The problem is, this cycle keeps you stressed, exhausted, and out of control.
But effective people? They spend most of their time in Quadrant 2. These are the important but not urgent activities that actually move your life forward. Things like planning, preparing, exercising, building relationships, learning new skills. These things don't scream at you. They don't have deadlines, but they're where the magic happens. Think about it. If you spent 30 minutes every day planning, how much more effective would you be? If you exercised regularly, how much more energy would you have? If you invested in your relationships before they became problems, how much richer would your life be? If you learned continuously, how much more capable would you become? The key is learning to say no. No to Quadrant 3 and 4 activities. No to things that don't align with your mission. And this is hard because saying no to these things often means saying no to other people. But remember, when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. Every yes is a no in disguise. Covey teaches this powerful principle. Organize and execute around priorities. Don't prioritize your schedule. Schedule your priorities. Start each week by identifying your most important Quadrant 2 activities, the ones that align with your mission and roles. Block out time for them first, then fit everything else around them. And here's something crucial. Putting first things first also means integrity. It means keeping commitments to yourself. We're so good at keeping commitments to others, but we break promises to ourselves all the time. I'll start tomorrow, just this once. I don't have time right now. Every time you break a commitment to yourself, you damage your self-trust. And without self-trust, you can't be effective. So these first 3 habits, being proactive, beginning with the end in mind, putting first things first, they're about achieving what Covey calls private victory. It's about winning the battle with yourself, becoming independent, going from dependence to independence. And this is essential because you can't have a healthy relationship with others if you don't have a healthy relationship with yourself. But independence isn't the ultimate goal because life isn't lived in isolation. The most fulfilling and productive existence is interdependent. This is where we need other people, where we work together to achieve things we couldn't achieve alone. And this brings us to habits 4, 5, and 6, which are all about public victory. The 4th habit is think win-win. Now, most of us have been conditioned to think life is like a pie. If you get a bigger piece, I get a smaller piece. If you win, I lose. We see everything as a competition. At school, at work, even in relationships. We compare ourselves constantly. We're jealous when others succeed. We secretly enjoy when others fail. Be honest, we've all felt this. But Covey presents a radically different paradigm. He says there's enough for everyone. Life isn't a zero-sum game. We can all win. Your success doesn't diminish mine. In fact, when we work together, we can create something bigger than either of us could create alone. Think win-win is a mindset of seeking mutual benefit. It's about finding solutions where both parties feel good about the outcome. It's about having abundance mentality instead of scarcity mentality. And let me tell you, this changes everything in your relationships. Imagine you're working on a group project and someone suggests an idea. The competitive mindset says, how can I make my idea look better? How can I prove them wrong? The win-win mindset says, how can we combine the best of both ideas? How can we make this better together? See the difference? Or imagine you're in a disagreement with your friend. The win-lose approach says, I need to prove I'm right. The lose-win approach says, whatever, you're right, I don't care. But you're actually resentful inside. The win-win approach says, Let's find a solution that works for both of us. I want to understand your perspective, and I want you to understand mine. Now, Covey is realistic. He admits that win-win isn't always possible. Sometimes, after genuinely trying, you realize there's no agreeable solution. In that case, it's better to choose no deal. Walk away agreeable. Don't force it, because a bad deal where one person loses is worse than no deal at all. It damages the relationship and creates resentment. But here's what makes win-win possible. The fifth habit: seek first to understand, then to be understood. This might be the most powerful communication principle you'll ever learn.
Think about the last time you had a conversation where you really felt heard. I mean, really heard, not just someone waiting for their turn to talk, but someone genuinely trying to understand you. How did that feel? Rare, right? Because most of us don't listen with the intent to understand. We listen with the intent to reply. While the other person is talking, we're thinking about what we're going to say next. We're forming judgments, preparing advice, filtering everything through our own experiences. Covey calls this autobiographical listening. We listen and respond from our own autobiography, our own perspective. We do 4 things. We evaluate and judge. We probe and ask questions from our own frame of reference. We advise based on our own experience, or we interpret and try to figure people out based on our own motives. But empathetic listening is completely different. It's listening with the intent to understand emotionally and intellectually. It's getting inside someone's frame of reference. It's seeing the world through their eyes, feeling what they feel. And this is incredibly powerful, because when people feel understood, they open up. Defenses come down. Real communication becomes possible. Let me give you an example. Say your friend comes to you and says, "I'm thinking about dropping out of college." The typical response might be, "Are you crazy? You need a degree." Evaluating. Or, "Why would you think that?" Probing. Or, "You should stick it out. I did and I'm fine." Advising. Or, "You're just stressed about exams." Interpreting. But empathetic listening would be, "You're really struggling right now. Tell me what's going on." And then you listen. Really listen. Reflect back what you hear. So it sounds like you feel like college isn't the right path for you right now because... And you don't judge. You don't rush to fix. You just understand. When you do this, something magical happens. First, you actually understand the situation. Maybe they're not really thinking about dropping out. Maybe they're just overwhelmed and need support. Second, they feel valued and understood. This builds trust and opens the relationship. Third, you earn the right to be understood yourself. After you've genuinely listened, people are much more willing to hear your perspective. This leads beautifully into the second half of Habit 5, then to be understood. After you've listened empathetically, you can present your ideas using what Covey calls the Greek philosophy of 3 words: ethos, pathos, and logos. Ethos is your credibility and character. Pathos is emotional connection. Logos is the logic of your argument. Most of us jump straight to logos. We present our logical arguments. Here's why you should... But if people don't trust you, ethos, and don't feel understood, pathos, they won't care about your logic. You have to make deposits in the emotional bank account first. And this brings us to the 6th habit: synergize. This is where the magic really happens. When you value differences, when you seek to understand, when you think win-win, you create synergy. And synergy means the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Think about it. 1 + 1 = 2, right? That's addition. But with synergy, 1 + 1 can equal 3 or 10 or 100. When people truly work together, when they're open to each other's ideas, when they value different perspectives, they create something entirely new, something better than any one person could have created alone. I love how Covey explains this. He says there are 3 levels of communication. The lowest is win-lose or lose-win, defensive communication where people use their position, power, or logic to get their way. The middle level is compromise, which is 1 + 1 = 1.5. Both people give up something to meet in the middle. But synergy, that's 1 + 1 = 3 or more. Nobody has to give up anything. Instead, you create something better.
The key to synergy
is valuing differences. We tend to think people who see things differently are wrong. But what if their different perspective is exactly what we need? In nature, diversity creates strength and resilience. It's the same with people. When you bring together different perspectives, different strengths, different experiences, you get better solutions. But synergy requires vulnerability. You have to be willing to say, I don't have all the answers. Your perspective might be better than mine. Let's explore this together. That takes courage. It takes security. It takes all the previous habits working together. Think about your own life. When have you experienced synergy? Maybe it was a conversation where ideas just flowed and you came up with something brilliant together. Maybe it was a project where everyone's different talents combined perfectly. That's synergy. And it's not just more productive, it's more enjoyable. It's energizing. It's creative. It's fun. Now, you might be thinking, this all sounds great, but I'm exhausted just thinking about it. And that's exactly why we need the 7th habit: sharpen the saw. Covey tells this story about a guy sawing down a tree. He's been at it for hours, sweating, struggling, barely making progress. Someone comes along and says, why don't you take a break and sharpen the saw? And the guy responds, I don't have time. I'm too busy sawing. This is how most of us live. We're too busy sawing to sharpen the saw. We don't have time to take care of ourselves because we're too busy working. We don't have time to learn because we're too busy doing. We don't have time to plan because we're too busy reacting. And we wonder why we're exhausted, burned out, and not making progress. Sharpening the saw means renewing yourself in 4 dimensions: physical, spiritual, mental, and social-emotional. And this isn't selfish. This is essential. You can't give what you don't have. You can't be effective if you're running on empty. The physical dimension is about taking care of your body. Exercise, nutrition, sleep, stress management. This is your engine. If your body isn't working well, nothing else will either. And I'm not talking about becoming a bodybuilder. Just move your body regularly, eat reasonably well, get enough sleep. These aren't optional if you want to be effective. The spiritual dimension is about your core, your center, your values. This is where you connect with what matters most. Maybe it's meditation, prayer, nature, music, art, reading literature, whatever helps you clarify your values and strengthen your commitment to them. This is your source of leadership in your life. The mental dimension is about learning, reading, writing, thinking. Your mind needs exercise just like your body. Read books, take courses, learn new skills, write to clarify your thinking. Don't let your mind atrophy. Education isn't something that ends when school ends. It's lifelong. And the social-emotional dimension is about your relationships and your inner security. This is where habits 4, 5, and 6 come in. Building win-win relationships, seeking to understand, creating synergy. These things renew you emotionally and expand your effectiveness with others. Here's the beautiful thing. When you sharpen the saw in one dimension, it positively affects all the others. When you exercise, you have more mental clarity. When you learn, you become more valuable to others. When you build strong relationships, you have more emotional resilience. It all works together. And this is quadrant 2 activity. Sharpening the saw is never urgent, but it's always important. It's the activity that makes all other activities possible and more effective. If you don't make time for it, you'll eventually break down. You'll burn out. You'll lose your edge. Covey talks about having a personal program of renewal. Maybe it's an hour a day, or 30 minutes, or even just 15 minutes to start. The amount doesn't matter as much as the consistency. Every day, do something to renew yourself physically, spiritually, mentally, and socially emotionally. Now, let me bring this all together. These 7 habits aren't separate things you do. They're interconnected. They build on each other. They create an upward spiral of growth. You start by being proactive, taking responsibility for your life. You define your mission, figuring out what really matters. You organize around your priorities, doing first things first. This gives you the independence and security to work effectively with others. You seek win-win solutions. You truly listen before you speak. You value differences and create synergy. And you continuously renew yourself so you can keep growing and giving. But here's what Covey wants you to understand. This isn't a quick fix. This isn't something you do once and you're done. These are habits. They require practice, patience, persistence. You're not going to read this and suddenly become a different person. You're going to mess up. You're going to fall back into old patterns. And that's okay. What matters is that you keep coming back. You keep practicing. You keep growing. And here's something else. These habits are based on principles, not techniques. Principles are natural laws, like gravity. They operate whether you're aware of them or not. You can't break principles. You can only break yourself against them. Fairness, integrity, honesty, human dignity, service, quality, growth. These are principles. And when you align your life with these principles, you become more effective because you're working with reality, not against it. Think about someone you really admire, someone you consider truly effective and genuinely good. I bet they embody these habits, whether they've read this book or not. They're proactive. They live with purpose. They manage themselves well. They create win-win relationships. They listen deeply. They value differences, and they take care of themselves. These habits work because they're based on how life actually works. So where do you start? Covey would say, start with yourself. Start with habit 1. Start being proactive. Start taking responsibility. Stop blaming circumstances and start choosing your responses. Then work on your mission. Then organize your priorities. Then move to your relationships. But wherever you start, just start. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait until you have it all figured out. Start now with what you can control. And here's the thing. As you change, the people around you will change. As you become more proactive, people will respond differently to you. As you seek to understand, people will trust you more. As you think win-win, you'll attract cooperative people. You can't directly control other people, but you can influence them through your own behavior. I want to leave you with this thought. Your life right now is the result of your choices. If you want different results, you need to make different choices. And that starts with developing these 7 habits. It starts with deciding that you're going to be proactive, that you're going to live with purpose, that you're going to be intentional about your time, that you're going to build better relationships, that you're going to take care of yourself. This isn't easy. Growth never is, but it's worth it. Because on the other side of this work is a life of effectiveness, meaning, and fulfillment. A life where you're not just busy, but productive. Not just successful by society's standards, but successful by your own. Not just getting through the day, but actually moving towards something that matters. You have one life, one shot at this, and you get to choose how you live it. You can be reactive, letting circumstances and other people determine your path, or you can be proactive, taking charge of your choices in your direction. You can drift, or you can navigate. You can react, or you can create. Stephen Covey spent his life studying effective people, and he distilled what he learned into these 7 habits. But knowing them isn't enough. You have to live them. You have to practice them. You have to make them part of who you are. So I want to challenge you. Pick one habit, just one. Maybe it's being more proactive. Maybe it's creating your mission statement. Maybe it's putting first things first. Maybe it's thinking win-win. Maybe it's seeking to understand. Maybe it's valuing differences. Maybe it's sharpening your saw. Pick one and commit to practicing it for the next 30 days. Really work on it. Notice what changes. Notice how you feel. Notice how people respond to you. And if you found value in this summary, if something here resonated with you, do me a favor. Subscribe to Literate Lens. Hit that bell icon so you don't miss our next video, because we're here to bring you powerful insights from books that can actually change your life. Not just theory, but practical wisdom you can use. We're building a community of people who believe in growth, who believe in learning, who believe we can always become better versions of ourselves. Leave a comment below and tell me which habit resonated most with you, or which one you're going to start working on. I read every comment, and I'd love to hear from you. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. Let's spread these ideas and help more people live more effective, meaningful lives. Remember, effectiveness isn't about doing more things. It's about doing the right things. It's not about being busy. It's about being productive. It's not about reacting to life. It's about creating the life you want. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Thank you for being part of the Literate Lens community. Keep learning, keep growing, keep becoming the person you're meant to be. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care.